Welcome to Study Time, a televised home learning program produced by Rwanda Basic Education Board.
Hello students, welcome to the TV learning programs. As usual, I'm your teacher Herbert, and I'll be taking you through the biology of Senior 3, and we are still on the same unit, which is Unit 8. The unit of the lesson is circulatory system in human, or human circulatory system. So I think you do remember when we are starting our lesson, I would like to remind you to get a pen, a notebook, and you try to note something which is very important in the lesson. And the lesson of today is the blood vessels. And I would like to be near on TV and you start watching as well as you're noting the important concept on the lesson. Students, you even want to inform the parents to be around where necessary. They can help the student to do this assignment and even the homework. Thank you. So let us start our lesson, which is concerning about blood vessels, and which is lesson 3. The learning objective of the lesson is at the end of that lesson, every student should be able to explain the structure of the arteries, veins, capillaries, and even the adaptation to their functions. So in the previous lesson, we talked about the structure of the heart and how the heart pumps the blood to different parts of the body. And we also discussed about the effect of physical activities on the heart. We talked about the coronary heart diseases, and we also discussed about how to prevent some of the heart diseases or coronary heart diseases. So within a short time, I want for you to remind me one of the diseases that we talked about that normally attacks the heart. Good, we talked about the thrombosis, which is the clotting of the blood or the ramping of the blood in the blood vessels. Once the blood clots in the blood vessels and is no longer going to the tissues, automatically that one is called thrombosis. That is, thrombosis is a disease that normally caused by, it is a coronary heart disease or heart attack. We talked about arteriothyrosis, where the calcium ions and even some of substances that clots on the external part of the arteries, and it prevents the arteries become elastic. And eventually, when it is no longer elastic, the elastic fibers will not expand. It becomes inelastic. And eventually, the pumping of the blood will be very hard. So the blood will just be moving through the arteries with high pressure, and which will lead into what we call heart attack. And we also talked about arteriothyrosis, where some of the substances, take an example, the cholesterol can just clot inside the lumen of the arteries and eventually prevents the flow of blood to different parts of the body and even to the brain, and which can result into what you call stroke. We also discussed about the ways how can we prevent. If you remember properly, we also discussed how can we prevent these coronary heart diseases. We mentioned a number of ways how can we prevent coronary heart diseases. We talked about avoid smoking, because we said one of the major things that can cause coronary heart disease, we talked about smoking. And you know smoking can lead into very many factors, can lead into cancer of the lungs and etc. We also talked about to avoid what you call saturated food which contains more fats, cholesterol, which are not healthy to our body. So I said we have to eat food which are unsaturated food. That is food which has less proteins. Take an example like fish, chicken, and etc. And we also discussed about how can we just eat food that contains fruits. Vegetables are also very important in our health and can just be one of way of preventing coronary heart diseases, heart attack, or heart arrest. Also doing regular exercise, also very important in preventing heart attack. So those are the previous lessons that we discussed. So let us start our lesson now of today, what we call the blood vessels. The blood vessels. We said the human circulatory system is made up of three major parts. The human circulatory system is made up of the blood, is made up of the heart, and even the blood vessels. And we talked about the structure of the heart, how the structure of the heart is responsible for pumping the blood to different parts of the body. Receiving the blood and pumping the blood to different parts of the body is done by the heart. So we're going to talk about now the structure. We're going to talk about the blood vessels. Our body is made up of blood vessels, and these blood vessels, they are responsible for transporting blood to different parts of the body. There are three major types of blood vessels. We have arteries, we have capillaries, and once I mentioned about capillaries, we have a number of numerous capillaries, a network of blood capillaries. And capillaries, they are very important, an exchange of nutrients and other substances into the body, without forgetting that they're also capillaries, they're also responsible for removing waste products. Take an example, like carbon dioxide from the body. And we have the veins, is also another type of blood vessel. So we're going to go through the three major types of blood vessels. We talk about their functions, we talk about their adaptations, and how their structure makeup. So I said blood vessels are tube-like structures. We talk about tube-like structures which forms a continuous channel through the body. They are tube-like structures which normally forms a channel in our body. And what does these blood vessels do? They transport blood to and from the heart. They transport blood away from the heart. They also bring back blood to the heart. So if I mention that they transport blood to and from the heart to the body tissues, to the body cells, because the body cells need oxygen, they need nutrients if they are to carry their functions efficiently. So there are three major types of blood vessels, as I mentioned it earlier. I mentioned there is arteries, there are veins, and capillaries. We're going to have some illustrations and figures that illustrate those three types of blood vessels. We're going to have the illustration that illustrates how does the capillary and the veins differ in terms of the structure, in terms of their functions, all right? How does the capillaries also differ from capillaries in terms of their functions and even structure? So the figure below illustrates the relationship between these three main types of vessels. As mentioned, these three types of vessels, I've been talking about arteries, veins, and capillaries. As we mentioned, it is a medium of transport. What does it transport? Transport oxygen, transport blood, transport nutrients to different body cells, because the cells need all these substances if they are to survive. So let's talk about their structure and their anatomy and the structure of the veins and arteries and capillaries. We have the diagram. Try to see properly and observe properly. Student, I would engage you to observe properly the diagram that shows the relationship between arteries, capillaries, as well as the veins. Take your time and observe. When you're observing the diagrams, on the left side, when you're trying about on the left side, we have that diagram which shows the veins. On the right side, this is the right side. The left side is showing the structure. The diagram shows an artery. Then in the middle, we have a diagram that shows capillaries. I said capillaries, we have a dense network. Majority of our body is supplied by the capillaries. And the capillaries, they are very many. They are permeable. If I mention permeable, what does it mean? It means that permeable, they are able to allow some substance to diffuse into the body. So a dense network of capillaries are permeable. And most of the capillaries, they are really small in terms of the size. All right? So we have capillaries, and these capillaries, they are permeable and are really small in size. So we have in the middle, these are capillaries. A million of body is normally supplied by a dense network of blood capillaries, which supplies the body with nutrients plus oxygen, and without forgetting that also is very important in removing the waste product from our body. So let's talk about the arteries. We start with one type of blood vessel, which is called artery. What characterizes artery? And what does artery do in terms of pumping the blood into the body? And also, what are the major structure, what are the morphology and anatomy of the structure of arteries? We have to take time and think about it, and we understand what does artery do, arteries. The heart pumps blood into vessels which are called arteries. Once the blood is pumped into the arteries carries blood away from the heart to various parts of the body. I will give you some time to think about one of the arteries that carries the blood away from the heart. I think I remember the other time we discussed one of the blood vessels that carries blood away from the heart to different body parts or to the body parts. We talked about aortic artery, which carries blood away from the heart. And you remember, once the blood is oxygenated, we said the left chamber of the heart carries oxygenated blood. And the right chamber of the heart carries deoxygenated blood. And once the blood is oxygenated, it has to be pumped to different parts of the body. And what blood vessels carries blood away from the heart to the various body parts? That one is referred to as arteries. Due to the pumping action of the heart, the blood from the heart enters into arteries. And once the blood enters into the arteries, the blood must be moving with high pressure. That's why the structure of the arteries must be thick. If I say thick, what does it mean? It means that it must be thick to resist the pressure, because the blood that are moving inside the arteries must be oxygenated. So due to the pumping action of the heart, the blood from the heart enters into the arteries at high pressure. So simply, generally, I can talk about the arteries carries oxygenated blood, except pulmonary artery. Therefore, the structure of the arteries enables them to withstand, I can mention, to withstand the high pressure of the blood flowing in them. That if the blood is flowing with them in a high pressure, so the arteries are able to stand the high pressure that are flowing in the arteries. So let's talk about the structure or the anatomy of the structure of an artery. If you try to observe clearly, student, you see this is the structure of an artery. When it comes to the lumen, it has got a small lumen compared to other blood vessels. It is elastic, what we call elastic fibers. It is able to expand. Why do you have to be elastic fiber? Able to stand the high pressure that is carried, to withstand the pressure that is passing through the blood, that is brought by the blood from the heart. Arteries have the following properties. There's a number of properties that are possessed by the arteries. We have to discuss through those properties that indicates this blood vessel is an artery. I will give you a small time to think about it, and eventually we're going to discuss it in detail. What are the major properties and characteristics that characterizes the structure of an artery? As I mentioned it earlier, the arteries carries blood away from the heart to different body organs or to different body parts. One of the characteristics or one of the properties of arteries, thick muscular walls to withstand and maintain high pressure of blood. That is property number one. It is thick musculature. As you have in the diagram, the upper part, as this is a lumen, where the blood must be passing through. This wall is elastic, without forgetting that this wall must be thick muscular wall. If I mention thick muscular wall, it means that the pressure that passes through that blood vessels must be moving with high pressure, because the blood passing through the arteries is oxygenated, not deoxygenated. So I mentioned that thick muscular walls to withstand and maintain high pressure of the blood. Number two, the outer fibrous coat for strengthening and even protection. It must be having the outer fibrous coat for strengthening and even protection. The third characteristics of the artery, it is thicker layer of muscles and elastic fiber. They are able to expand. And you remember when you've been discussing about the heart diseases, we talked about what you call arteriothyrosis. Arteriothyrosis, where we said the muscles are inelastic. They are not able to expand. And if they are not able to expand, eventually the blood will just moving when it is forced. Meaning by that time, the diameter of the arteries will be decreased. So I mentioned that thick layer of muscles and elastic fibers which contract and relax to adjust their diameter as the blood is flowing through them. As the blood is flowing through them, the diameter must be able to expand, contract, and relax. And if they are contracting and relaxing, the reason why they have to contract and relax, it is just to adjust their diameter as the blood is flowing with them. And I said arteries have the inner lining of cells known as the endothelium. These inner lining cells are referred to as endothelium. Another characteristics of arteries, they have narrow lumen, not large lumen. Their lumen is very narrow. Why do we have to say the lumen must be narrow? To maintain the pressure of the blood inside them. If the lumen is large, meaning the blood will be flowing without pressure. But one of the characteristics of the arteries, they have a narrow lumen, which maintains the pressure of blood inside them. Another characteristics, it is located deeply within our body. I can try to mention that the arteries are not found what you call on superficial outside. That is supposed to be in skin. They are found deeply in our body, inside our bodies. That's why most of the time you can get damaged and you can see you are bleeding seriously, but eventually you find the arteries has not been damaged because they are located inside our body. I mentioned also arteries carry oxygenated blood, except the pulmonary arteries which carries deoxygenated blood, which carries blood to the lungs. So these are the major characteristics of arteries. So pumping of the blood can be felt on artery if pressure is put in it with a finger. Take an example, you've been doing you're doing an exercise, strenuous exercise, you're doing a vigorous exercise. Automatically, if you press your hands on the blood flow, automatically when you feel the blood pressure the blood is moving with high pressure. This is known as what you call a pulse. And it is this pressure which makes blood in arteries flow in one direction. Some of you have ever seen when you're holding your hand with the fingers and you touch these arteries that carries the blood, automatically the blood will just show you the blood must be moving in a single direction. Arteries branch out from a narrow vessels, what you call arterioles. Arterioles, this is a branching of arteries. The branches of arteries form what you call arterioles, and the arterioles branch further within the tissues into fine vessels called the capillaries. Let's try to understand. The branching of arteries form what you call arterioles, and arterioles also branches within the tissues to form what you call capillaries. Let's have the diagram of capillaries. Capillaries are, as I mentioned it earlier, they are really small. And as I mentioned it, capillaries, they are very important in exchange of nutrients and oxygen, and also removing of waste product from the body. Capillaries are fine branches of blood vessels that form a dense network between arterioles and even venules. Let's have the diagram. We try to see the diagram. And something which is very interesting, they have thin endothelium. And another one characteristic that makes this one shows the the capillaries are thin, one cell thick. They are very small, have small lumen, and that is a transverse section of a capillary that shows the structure of the capillary. Let's have their characteristics. Capillaries have the following properties. They have a thin wall to allow a rapid exchange of substances. A thin wall to allow a rapid exchange of substances. These substances, I mentioned it, we talk about oxygen, we talk about nutrients, and even removing of waste products. And also say the capillaries are permeable to facilitate the process of diffusion. They form a dense network which creates a large surface area over which exchange of substance takes place. They have a large surface area. If you talk about a large surface area, it means they are thin. If they are thin, they are easy to carry out the exchange of substances to take place. Their walls are narrow. If you say they are narrow, they allow high pressure builds up within them. This ensures faster movement of substance out of them. We have another characteristics or another property. They have a very thin wall made up of only one thin layer for fast exchange of materials. I think it is very clear. Fast exchange of materials is done by the capillaries. Capillaries join to form a large vessels. Once you get the number of capillaries, they are joining together to form a large vessel. These vessels are referred to as venules. And the venules, they link up to form what you call veins. A number of capillaries, when they join together, they form what you call venules. Venules, they link together to form what you call veins. Students, let's have the last type of vessel, which is called veins. It's another type of blood vessel. Veins, they carry blood under a low pressure. The blood that flows through the veins must be moving with a low pressure compared to the arteries, which the blood moves with high pressure. And from the tissues towards the heart, we can mention that the veins carry blood towards the heart or carry blood back to the heart. They have thin walls, which are composed of thin outer fibers coat, a thin mid layer of muscles and elastic fibers, and the inner layer of cells which are called endometrium. Let's have a transverse section of the vein. You compare the lumen of the vein and compare the lumen of the artery. They are totally different, and they differ in terms of their lumen. We talked about the arteries are thick, but here on our diagram, we see that the veins are thin. We talked about small lumen or narrow lumen, which helps to stand the pressure that are moving through the arteries. But here, the lumen seems to be big lumen. It means the blood flows without any pressure, flows because it is going back to the heart. So the blood is moving smoothly without any pressure. So it means that the blood moves with low pressure, and that's why we say, generally we can mention that the blood is deoxygenated. Veins carry oxygenated blood, except pulmonary vein, which carries oxygenated blood. Veins have pockets. If I talk about pockets, that is to say, if the blood is flowing from the legs going to the heart, the blood cannot go back. It has to move in a single direction. So it has pockets at intervals in their walls, which allows blood flow in one direction towards the heart. And it means the blood has to move in one direction, not going back. If the blood is flowing from the legs, from the intestines and arms, they have to going to the heart. It has to move in a single direction. They carry the oxygenated blood, except pulmonary vein, which carries oxygenated blood. We have portal veins, have capillaries. And you remember that we talk about what you call a hepatic portal vein, which carries nutrients from the small intestines to the liver. And hepatic portal vein, which carries deoxygenated blood from the liver to the heart. They are unique veins that carry blood from the one organ to another. For example, hepatic portal vein, which carries blood from the small intestine to the liver. Hepatic portal vein carries nutrients, substances from the small intestines to the liver. The blood flows through all parts of the body in vessels. These vessels form a continuous system so that blood saturates in the body. So the blood has to saturate into the body because of these blood vessels. Blood flows in the blood vessels, always in a same direction. Arteries convey blood from the heart to the body tissues, veins, and return the blood to the heart and from the body tissues and capillaries, and provides a link between arteries, veins within the tissues. Let's have a summarized diagram that summarizes the differences between arteries, veins, and capillaries. Number one, arteries. They carry blood from the heart. Veins carry blood towards the heart. Capillaries carry blood from arteries to the veins. Number two, carry blood rich in high oxygenated, meaning that they carry oxygenated blood except pulmonary artery. Carry blood with raw oxygenated blood. Oxygen diffuses into tissues and fluids and within them. Blood is under high pressure. Blood is under low pressure, and high pressure of blood is filtered in substances. Blood flows in pulses. Blood does not flow in pulses. Here the blood flows within no pulse. So on veins and capillaries, no pulses, but here on arteries, there are pulses. No valves. In arteries, you say there are no valves, except when the blood is moving from the heart. But in veins, there are valves, and no valves in capillaries. Mentioned in terms of the thickness, the arteries are thick muscular elastic walls, or elastic fibers. These the walls are thin, and less muscular and inelastic. That in terms of the veins. Once they're thick and have no narrow lumen, it has, for the case of arteries, they have narrow lumen. These that have large lumen have very narrow lumen. The last one, they are located deeper in the body. These ones are normally, for the case of veins, they are located near the skin. And for the case of capillaries, they are located in all body tissues. We are ending our lesson. Let's have a lesson assessment. We have three numbers. Which blood vessels carries blood away from the heart? That is question number one. Which blood vessel carry blood away from the heart? Question two, blood vessels which absorbs strong pressure pulses contains more of dash tissue. The last one, what features do veins have that arteries do not have? So students, I'm going to leave you with the home assignment. Thank you for your active participation and watching. Thank you for your active participation and watching. And I wish you a blessed day. And I remind you to wash your hands with a clean water and a soap, and make a social distance. See you next time, and enjoy the rest of the day.